This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. From the big plays to life's everyday moments, see it all in sharp focus with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where SoonerScoop LASIKs.
Eddie, that's my guy, dude. He's awesome. You know, great person, hard worker, great athlete.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Welcome in the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya. Thank you to Derek Simmons. We'll hear from him in a little bit. Went back out to practice on Tuesday to see about 45 minutes of practice and then talk to a number of guys. I thought the interview session after practice on Tuesday night that we didn't know if we were going to have because of the weather held off. It was a really good one. You can check out all the interviews. We talked to Sammy Omosigho, Derek Simmons, David Stone, Isaiah Sategna, who we'll hear from in this show, Taylor Heim as well. A lot of guys that we'll talk to here in this show, and then we're going to talk to some more guys on Friday from Tuesday's post-practice. But welcome in, George. How are we?
Great. It feels like spring football. I mean, we're getting close to the end here.
I know that after we saw the one-on-one stuff, you can see the sights and sounds here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel with people complaining about, this guy did this or this guy didn't do this from the one-on-one sessions that we saw. That's when I was like, okay, we are like kind of officially in spring.
Yeah, and, it's one-on-ones, guys. It's one rep.
So and it's one rep from a one-on-one.
Right. And if your takeaway, too, is, I know some people are like, oh, they weren't happy with David Stone's rep or PJ Adeboroughe's or whoever's, how about the offensive line performing pretty well in the one-on-ones? Like, that's a good thing, right?
It's a win-win, right? You can claim a victory on either side because somebody from the Oklahoma football team's winning that rep.
Exactly. Just like some of the passes. I know Sategna beat somebody for a nice pass.
Kendall Daniels.
Yeah, I think Michael Boganowski got beat by Carson Kinn on a nice play. So it is what it is. It was fun, though, to actually see some of that, whereas every time we've been out there so far, it's been just, individual drills, whereas they were actually going against each other.
Sure. A little bit more than the individual drills that we take in normally. We will hear from David Stone. I know there's been a lot of talk about David Stone, and when you're a former five-star guy, there's high expectations for him entering his second season in Norman. But first, if you want to grab the Jordan Fly Elite Football, it's the first time ever that the Jordan Fly Football Elite Football from Big Game Football Factory, as you see on the screen behind us. If you're interested, that's the football Oklahoma will be using all season long, and you can get yours today. All you got to do is go to biggameusa.com/Sooners. Got the red lace there on the I'm trying to think of what the top. Yeah, the top of the football there.
Where you throw it?
Yeah, exactly. Where you grab the football. Where John Mateer will be grabbing the football. The signature Crimson Jumpman and interlocking OU, both iconic symbols of innovation and performance. That football has been made by the Oklahoma quarterbacks. They get a little bit of say in what they're going to be using this season. But great football. If you're so inclined and want to get yours today, go to biggameusa.com/Sooners to get yours today. We did talk to David Stone on Tuesday, and I think that, this is a guy that, and we talked a little bit about it on the Unofficial 40 with Josh McCuistion as well as Kerry Murdoch. I think that it would be easy to say, like, he kind of went through it as a freshman. Obviously, high expectations when you come in with the, the attention that he drew during the season. Then you see your best friend and the guy that you came in with from IMG and Jaden Jackson become the freshman All-American. But it certainly seems like, and you'll hear from him here in a second, certainly seems like a guy that's ready to take that next step for OU on the defensive line.
Yeah, and we saw him a little bit last year, and he also was dealing with a little bit of an, I think it was a hand injury or arm injury late in the season.
He had the big brace on his
club,
arm, if I remember correctly.
And so, I think he's battling that.
That's right.
But he was also, he needed to put on weight. That was a big thing when he first got to campus as a true freshman. And then I think, just his fundamentals were a little bit raw, and we all knew it was going to take about a year or two coaching from Todd Bates that before he gets to become the player that we all think he can be. I mean, his ceiling is so high, whereas a guy like Jaden Jackson, I think came in with a little bit more, of a foundation, was physically ready to play immediately.
Sure.
I think that was a huge thing. Now you look at David Stone, a year in the program, a year in the weight room, the film room. I know that's somewhere he spent a lot of time. You can tell he's maturing, both physically and mentally. He talked about, putting on that weight, moving it as well as he has. I think that he could take a big leap this year. And we've seen that, we've talked time and again about guys taking big steps after a year or two in the program. I think David Stone's going to play a lot more this year, and he could be a huge difference maker on that defensive line.
Certainly looks the part when we've been out there at practice. Here is David Stone on Tuesday night.
I feel like for myself, I had a big issue with, just being able to let my football, my life outside of football affect my football. So, I dominated a lot of the team setting and stuff like that. But sometimes, outside of that, I could let some of my body language get bad because of the stuff I had going on outside of football, whether it be my grades or something, things like that. And as a player, I had to learn how to compartmentalize, those things, separate the two, and be able to handle the pressures of outside life with football. And I feel like this year I made the jump as a player, being able to dominate that space, whether it's, in life or in football. So, like my grades, I finished with I know I made SEC honor roll thing or whatever that was. I got that, so I was proud of that. That's a big accomplishment for me, off the field. And then on the field, I've been killing it this spring. Winter workouts was a fun time for me. I'm up like 15, 20 pounds, moving better than ever. So those things, making those small improvements and, all over has been a big part of my game so far.
You mentioned put on that weight. How tough was it, and where have you noticed the difference the most?
I'd say in the weight room, definitely. A lot of people don't know, but when it comes to the weight room, I was never really a weight room guy. But I love working hard, and so when I got with Smitty, this season, it was it was the jump. He was pushing me every day, and a lot of my maxes went up a plate or two. So it's that jump helped me put on this weight. And then when we're running, I'm still moving good, fluidly, and things like that. So, I love it. I love the extra weight I got. I feel like I'm holding blocks better, and I'm still with a rush a passer at an elite level.
Extremely positive reviews coming in for David Stone. Another guy on the defensive side of the football that is expected to make quite a leap in terms of production as well as just what they're being asked of him to do. Sammy Omosigho, you wrote about him on Tuesday night, George.
Yeah, kind of like David Stone. I think a lot of people expect him to have a bigger role. And you look at Sammy's first 2 years, he kind of didn't have a spot. It was, he was kind of the emergency backup cheetah his first year. Last year, he was the backup cheetah. Ended up playing quite a bit when Kendall Dolby went down and Deshaun McCullough had some injuries and played well. I thought played that position well. I think he could work on some of his coverage skills like that, but super athletic guy. And he was recruited, Eddie, to play inside linebacker. That's where he was supposed to play. He's finally there now, and it sounds like he is really pushing for more playing time. He's playing that Mike spot, and I know the coaching staff loves him there. Super intelligent kid, very well-spoken. You'll see it in the interview here in a second, but I think they love his athleticism and just the knowledge of the game, and we've talked a lot about instincts. I think Sammy Omosigho has some of the best instincts on this team, and it's at a place like linebacker, you need to have that. So it sounds like he's another guy, going into his third year, that it's really starting to click for him. And don't be surprised, Eddie, if this is a guy that ends up starting some games for Oklahoma inside linebacker.
You know why I won't be surprised?
Why's that?
You just told me. All right, this is Sammy Omosigho on Tuesday night, talking about his transition into the middle of the Oklahoma defense, as well as Nate Dreiling, the linebackers coach for Oklahoma.
Spring's been a blast. It's been fun, competing with the guys. It's just been amazing. It's feel like it's a different spring from last year.
Playing the Mike position, how's that move been for you?
It's been great. You have guys like Kobe and Kip helping me out, and Coach Dreiling has been an amazing help. Also, having Coach V in my ear has really been helping me out too and push me forward to where I need to go. Yeah, it's year 3 in the program, and I'm definitely feeling more comfortable with the schemes and the plays and just the general feel for it. It feels better.
What do you make of Nate Dreiling so far?
Love that dude, goofball. He's just a funny guy to be around. He knows his stuff. Very, very intelligent coach. On his P's and Q's, and him and Coach Goodwin are just a 1-2 punch. That are amazing duo, amazing pickup.
Seems like he's pretty intense when we were out there. Is he an intense coach?
So he has his goofy side and he has his, the side that he has to be stern a little bit. So it's a bit of good of both worlds. It's amazing.
Playing the mic, do you have the green dot? Do you have the helmet colors?
Yeah, I do.
What's that experience been like for you?
Honestly, I thought it would be better. It's a lot of noise going on at one time, so you have to really focus on what you want to hear, and so you can get the D-line set and everything. Just make sure that you're doing the right thing to stay focused.
Who's in your ear? Is it Brent?
Right now it's Coach Dryland, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Coach V.
I think I'd probably agree with that, Sammy. 39 tackles a year ago, played in 13 games, made 3 starts, 5 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
Certainly seems like one of those guys, and we've talked about that third year for a number of the guys on the defensive side of the ball particularly or specifically, that it does feel like this is kind of their moment to shine.
Yeah, and that's not, a knock on a Kobe McKenzie, right?
But you feel good about the depth there.
I mean, you're going to see, and you saw it last year. I mean, Kobe McKenzie played a lot,
Sure.
and they would rotate him in, with Danny Stutzman. I could see Omosigho playing alongside Kobe, playing alongside Kip. What do they do with Kendall Daniels? And I thought it was interesting too, Eddie, hearing Sammy talk about, Kobe and how smart he is on the field and how much he's leaning on him learning the defense. I think that's a good sign for Kobe as a leader and also for Sammy to learn from him, as well as it sounds like he's been in Danny Stutzman's ear a lot, and Stutzman's been helping him out. I know Danny's been around the facility a lot recently. I think that Sammy's taking advantage of that.
It's a good thing. It's a good kind of, not necessarily a problem, but it's a good development for a linebacker core that I think that was kind of one of the question marks going into spring is what was that depth going to look like once you got past a Kobe McKenzie and a Kip Lewis. Certainly seems like that is headed in the right direction. We want to hit on a number of items from the offensive side of the football, but first, let us tell you about our good friends over at Roback. All you got to do is go to rhoback.com, roback.com. If you want to take advantage today, 20% off using the promo code Sooner20, and I know that's something that you have done already, George.
Yeah, I wear Roback. You can attest to this almost every single day. You can see me in the back of some of these interviews. Wearing
not
Roback.
a more comfortable item to wear, especially during this time of the year where you don't really know what the weather's going to be. Maybe it's a little bit windy out. Maybe you just go with the pullover.
Yeah, well, and even I'm not a big golfer. I know you are, but I think their golf stuff, whether it's polos or quarter zips or even these hoodies, I know their joggers as well are great. So this is the perfect time of year to own some Roback.
I've done it. I've ordered using the promo code Sooner20 for 20% off. I've gotten a couple pairs of the Looper Deltas coming in for golf season.
Nice.
As it's right around the corner. Shot at nearly 100 at Oklahoma City Golf Country Club on Saturday. No big deal. It's a private country club. All right, let's get into a little bit of the offense because I do think that, like, as much as we've talked about Giovanni Gibson, there's another name that has come in the transfer portal at the wide receiver position that is starting to come alongside somebody like a Deion Burks, obviously returning, but we're talking about Isaiah Sategna.
Yeah, and he's a guy that maybe we kind of undervalued a little bit when they got him in the portal. I mean, of all the receivers they got out of the transfer portal, he's the one guy that's like played at this level and in this conference and was productive. He was a good player for Arkansas, made some big plays. I think almost 500 yards receiving, a few touchdowns. So, did punt return and kick return for them as well. So he's a really versatile player. Sounds like him and John Mateer have really grown to have a strong connection. We saw him in the one-on-ones. I can't remember. You said earlier who he beat, but
Kendall Daniels.
Maybe
not the best matchup for Kendall Daniels.
No, but still, a nice play. It sounds like he scored a few touchdowns now in the scrimmages and team periods, and he's somebody that can play in the slot, but he also mentioned a little bit yesterday maybe he could pop outside if you wanted to have him and Burks on the field at the same time, which, again, having those two guys, speedsters, I think is a huge benefit, and it sounds like he is off to a good start.
Sategna had 37 receptions for 491 yards a year ago at Arkansas, also carried the ball for 15, but certainly going to be an asset for John Mateer. We talked to him on Tuesday just about kind of the acclimation process, making the move over from Fayetteville.
It's been a smooth transition. It's SEC to SEC, so, I kind of knew what to expect, but, it's a little more professional here. So, I'm loving the transition and I'm loving Oklahoma.
What do you like about this offense so far? How do you feel like you fit in?
John likes to push the ball downfield, and, that's my specialty, big plays and, just being explosive. And I feel like this is the perfect offense, to suit my gameplay.
Is it a hard one to learn, or how's that been, just picking up the playbook and stuff?
I've been in a lot of offenses, so, all the plays that we've run, I've already run it before. It's just the detail of how, Coach Arbuckle wants it. That's the biggest thing for me right now.
One thing, too, I wanted to note with him, cool backstory. I don't know if we've talked about this, but his mom was an Olympic sprinter, and his dad, I believe, is the track and field coach for Texas A&M.
So got some genes.
Yes, this is a guy that can really fly, and I think that when you talk about Arbuckle's offense, and Isaiah kind of spoke about it there, I think they're going to find a lot of different ways to get him and Deion Burks the football in space, and whether that's over the middle of the field or screens or handing it to him, whatever it is, I think they're going to have a pretty big role.
Before the spring started, we had that newcomer, media day, whatever you want to call it. And I remember we were talking to Isaiah Sategna. You might have been over there. You might have been the one asking him about it, but stretching the field. And that was certainly something that Oklahoma didn't have a whole lot of. It was kind of interesting to hear him talk about John Mateer, even more so than we have already heard about Mateer, and just kind of the way that he's developed a little bit of chemistry with that wide receiver unit as well as running the offense.
Yeah, and you and I talked about it. I think it was last week's practice report with Mateer. He was late to the media session because he was throwing extra passes with Sategna, and it certainly seems like that wide receiver room with a lot of new faces, obviously a new quarterback, they've been putting in a lot of extra work to make sure they have the same the good chemistry that they need to have success. And so you love to hear that. And it sounds like Isaiah too has kind of stepped up as a leader in that room, which is interesting because they don't have a lot of veterans, coming back from a year ago. So those are all good things to hear. And like I said, he knows what it's supposed to look like. He's competed at the highest level, coming from an SEC program and performing well. So I think that's a huge benefit for Oklahoma.
Certainly when you hear him talk about John Mateer, maybe it does carry a little bit more weight because he's been around the block before. Here is Isaiah Sategna talking a little bit more about John Mateer.
I mean, from day one, you just knew John was different. Just the way that he carries himself, just the aura that, comes with him. Like, it's just crazy. Everybody knows that he's that guy. And whenever he's on the field, you can see that too.
You mentioned his aura earlier. How would you maybe describe just his personality as a teammate?
He's always going to bring a smile to your face. Like, he's a funny guy, but, when it's time for business, it's time for business with him too.
You mentioned he likes to push the ball down the field. Just what has been the last few weeks like building a connection with him?
John's the type of guy, it doesn't matter the play. Whoever's open, he's going to get the ball to. He has a great sense of vision, for the field, and, he has a strong arm, and, he's trying to get it out quick.
Isaiah Sategna talking about John Mateer on Tuesday night. I don't know. You go out there, you see them hook up in the end zone a couple times, and then you start daydreaming about maybe what this offense could look like.
The reviews so far on John Mateer have just been, almost too much. Like, it's like,
I'm ready to hear, he threw 3 picks today. Almost.
We just haven't heard that yet. And that's good. That's good. It sounds like things are going great. And I think the biggest thing we're hearing the most about him is his leadership and the way that he's, helping teach this offense and kind of being that sidekick to Ben Arbuckle. I just think that's a huge, part of this that, we've talked a lot about it, but until we see it on the field, we just don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, didn't have a whole lot of that last year, just in terms of leadership from a quarterback position that was being manned by
too many young
freshmen.
Guys. It was young group, and you had an offensive coordinator who's kind of just thrown into the mix and, was trying to, I think, combine 2 different offenses. Sure. And you have a young quarterback who's got a lot of talent, but
heads were spinning.
There was a lot going on. Whereas
the best way to say it.
Yeah, I feel like this year there's just a lot more continuity in terms of what they're doing and everybody being on the same page. From offensive coordinator to quarterback.
And I know that it's going to be something that's going to have to take take off when the season begins in August and all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about accuracy with the football, that is one thing that John Mateer we've heard brings with his game.
Yep.
And I think that, just hearing Sategna talking about finding open wide receivers, and how many times did we go back through a game last year, especially at the beginning of the season, before we knew that, shit was really going to hit the fan and go, guys are open. Yep. They're just not getting the football to them. So positives there on the offensive side of the football with the skill talent, especially somebody like an Isaiah Sategna. Let's talk Derek Simmons, because we did talk to him on Tuesday night as well. And certainly somebody that, when he comes in from Western Carolina, you don't really know what he's actually going to be able to give you. Then you look at the starters on the scrimmage on Saturday, and he's certainly in the mix.
He's been the starting right tackle really since day one of spring practice, which tells you what Bill Bedenbaugh thinks of him as a player. And, to come from Western Carolina and really his whole journey, I think he started Division II, if I'm not mistaken. And to get to this point, one, he certainly looks like he can play at this level. He is a massive human being. So I don't have any doubts about his physicality or his size. It's, how quickly can he pick up the offense? And it sounds like he has. And talking to him yesterday, seems like a really bright guy, and he looks like he's 40. He definitely
100%.
looks like an old man. But, it sounds like he has really done a good job initiating himself, getting into the offense, becoming somewhat of a leader maybe for that group. And obviously he's an older guy. He's played a lot of football. I know not at this level, but he has played a lot and has played a lot of different positions, which I think really helps Oklahoma too.
Here is Derek Simmons talking on Tuesday night with the media about just kind of getting used to everything around Norman.
Just how's spring gone for you? How have you adjusted to a new team, new program, all that?
Coming in, it's been fun. Going against R. Mason, PJ, all those guys every day, it's helping me really get used to this kind of competition, and I've been taking it a day at a time, and it's been really fun.
How about picking up just Ben Arbuckle's offense and everything that goes into that?
Oh, yeah, I love Arbuckle's offense. Move fast, throw the ball around, run the ball. Everything's working out really well. The offense is clicking, and it looks really good.
Is working with Coach Biedenbob and everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. He's a hard-nosed coach, but it makes you a better football player, and it's made me a better football player day in and day out. His offense is very similar to the offense that I had at Western, so I wouldn't say it's more so that. I think it's me learning more about the defense and their coverage and what happens when we motion and all that stuff. So it's more so putting me more into the game and not so much just worrying about the defensive line.
How helpful is John been?
Oh, John, awesome. He communicates really well. Talks to us after drives on what we need to work on or what he needs to work on. So it's all really good.
Derek Simmons, certainly somebody that as we just discussed, has put himself into a good mix. Yep. And I think that maybe that's the biggest thing that we've taken away from the offensive line. Obviously, you're down Heath Ozaida and Logan Howland this spring, but there are a number of names that are kind of somewhat in that mix, if not as starters, but guys that could add depth.
I mean, we've talked a ton about Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje. I mean, those two freshmen, I think there's a chance they get on the field quite a bit this year. And what does that look like? What does that mean for a Derek Simmons? What does that mean for a Jacob Sexton, right? Like, you get Logan Howland back. Michael Fasusi's performing really well at left tackle. Do you move Jacob Sexton to right tackle? Do you move him to guard? What do you do with Derek Simmons? Could he play guard? He played guard at Western Carolina. So you have a lot more options than maybe you did a year ago. I think the one spot, we've talked a lot about it, is center. You probably want to add a backup center. The Stanford transfer, Jake Maluka?
Makula?
I don't know. He's going to be on campus this week, and I think Oklahoma would really like to add him. So we'll see. Maybe we can figure out how to pronounce his name. But
if he comes to Oklahoma, we will not figure out how to pronounce his name.
Yes.
But if he's really good, like 6 months from now, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
That's how that goes.
But the overall point, you like the depth.
Sure.
And you're still missing some guys this spring in Logan Howland and Heath Ozaida, like you said. But overall, you like the depth, you like the talent. Now it's on Bill Biedenbow. Who's your best five, and how do they all work together?
Let's hear a little bit more from Derek Simmons talking about just the competition overall within the offensive line group, and then I think you'll like what he had to say about Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje.
With competition, we love competition, so I think the competition that we've been doing has been really fun, and it's something that I think the offensive line and defensive line needs, especially when you have a new offensive line working together and you have some younger D linemen working in as well. So, doing that competition causes you to communicate with one another more, and it just makes you a stronger group as the days go on.
Have any of the young guys, Michael Fasusi, Ryan Foje, any of those guys stood out to you in that offensive line group?
Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje are athletes. It's actually insane to see how good they really are at just being a freshman, being 18, 19 years old. It's incredible. They've done really well. They're adapting well. They're really good at taking coaching, so they're taking a day at a time. But I've really enjoyed watching them.
What's maybe the biggest learning curve for young guys like that?
I think biggest learning curve for young guys is going from a high school offense to a college offense and the speed of the game. It's a big difference, especially going from high school to the SEC. You're not going to match that speed at the high school level, no matter where you are. So I think it's just a matter of picking up the pace as the days go on.
Eddie, I think what Derek said there about the competition is great, because it is true. Because we talked about the depth a year ago, and it just wasn't there. Because you think back last year, when Garen Hatchett goes down in game one, you're like, well, they're screwed at center, right? Branson Hickman goes down, they're still screwed at center. Michael Tarquin was banged up late in the year. And it's like, what the hell are they going to do at tackle? Jacob Sexton goes down. Like, OU's going to have injuries on the offensive line. It feels like, and again, you're going to have a drop-off to certain guys, but I don't think it'll be as big of a drop-off as you did a year ago. I mean, it was like, when you knew Spencer Brown had to come into the game, no offense to Spencer Brown, but OU was screwed.
Sure.
That was the situation they were in. They were down to the point where Isaiah Autry-Dent, who I still think could be a good player, but clearly was not ready a year ago as a true freshman, was going to have to play. Whereas it just feels like overall this group, there's not as much of a drop off from the number 1 guys to the number 2 guys.
Let's stick on the offensive line because I think maybe one of the underlying kind of big storylines for B coming out of the spring has been an emergence of Eddie Pierre-Louis.
Yeah.
And we talked to him on Tuesday night. By the way, just a side note, Eddie Pierre-Louis, he might have one of the best profile pictures on the Oklahoma roster website of all time. And I was a little disappointed that he doesn't wear those glasses underneath his helmet. I think that'd be pretty rad. But regardless, it does sound like Eddie Pierre-Louis is kind of making a name for himself.
In a year ago, there was a lot of the fan base clamoring for him to be on the field, right? When the offensive line was having their struggles, there was a lot of people banging on the door for him to, be in the game. And he just wasn't ready yet. He was a true freshman. He came in late. He didn't have spring practice a year ago like a Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje do right now. And so he just wasn't there. And we saw flashes of when he did get to play, I think against Maine, that, hey, maybe this guy can be a pretty good player for you. Sounds like it's starting to click for him. He's got a big opportunity this spring with Ozida being out. I still think Ozida is going to really push hard, come fall camp for that starting role. But, Eddie Pierre-Louis, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up starting either at left or right guard for Oklahoma.
In a season that was just filled, it seemed like, with just terrible moments for the offensive side of the football, that Maine game when he came in and was chasing people down literally after the whistle,
knocking people over.
Yeah,
that's what you want. That's what you want.
Absolutely. Here is Eddie Pierre-Louis talking about moving into his second season in Norman and a little bit more of a bigger role on this 2025 football team.
Our goal is to be the most explosive, highly efficient offense in the country, and I feel like every day we're going out and we're going bringing intensity each and every day in practice. That's a main goal that we've been talking about, emphasizing every day during practice. So really, it's just been a shock with the intensity levels, fast playing, and just having explosive plays.
Going back to last year, what was that main experience for you?
Oh, that was the first game I really got to let it loose, and I was very mad that game, so I wanted to let it all out. That was the first time I really got to have a lot of reps, so I made every rep count. And also, it was a good opportunity that I got to play with some of the other guys that I'm playing with now. So we've been building that relationship, connection.
Last season, it seemed like you were a guy that a lot of people look to as a spark, just emotionally. You would come in, after a rough season, but you were, throwing yourself around, getting aggressive. Is that something that you feel like is carried over into the spring and something that you try and bring to this team?
Oh, absolutely. And I see it in the younger guys like Ryan Fotage, also Mike Fasusi, all those younger guys, they bring in that energy as well. So every time I look at them, I'm like, yeah, them boys got that little dog in them. So each and every day, still bringing the intensity each and every day. And that's something that we got to bring across the whole offensive line board if we want to get to where we want to be.
Eddie Pierre-Louis talking to the media on Tuesday night. You got to be a special kind of crazy to work your mind up into being mad at the Maine kids for coming in. I got a kick out of that for some reason. But we'll talk about it on Friday in another practice report here at the end of the week. He talked about it a little bit, and we have a little bit more from him as well as Derek Simmons talking about Kevin Wilson being out there, the former Tulsa head coach, worked up at Ohio State, previously at Oklahoma. He worked a lot with the offensive line when he was here that first time around. Phil Lodeholt, Duke Robinson, some of those guys. And I don't know. I think it's just a good situation with him being on the staff as an analyst.
Well, he got his start. I believe one of his big starts was at Northwestern as the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach.
Sure.
So this is a guy that's coached the position at a high level and really has been a focus on that and tight end throughout his career. So just a huge benefit for Oklahoma. And he's certainly somebody, watching practice the other day is Bill Beatenbow is usually kind of the leader of that group, obviously. But Kevin Wilson will take guys to the side, coach them up individually. And that's just a huge bonus for OU to have somebody with Kevin Wilson's type of experience. Also coaching in an offense like this. Like this is the type of offense that Kevin Wilson's used to. And that's what has me excited about Eddie Pierre-Louis, who's just a fantastic athlete. I think he's going to be a really good fit for what they're trying to do offensively, whether it's, pulling around, running some counter stuff that Ben Arbuckle likes to run or just, pass protection, things like that. I think he's a really solid fit. So you like the development of him. It's just, how quickly can it click and what does that competition look like come fall camp? It feels like, Eddie, There's going to be competition just about every single spot on the offensive line, maybe other than center, unless they bring someone in.
Sure.
It feels like it's kind of open game for just about all these guys.
We talked a little bit more about the offensive line situation, what Oklahoma could possibly do in the transfer portal in today's episode of the Unofficial 40 that you can listen to right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, or obviously all of your podcasting platforms. All right, that's going to do it for today's program. Here, another practice report down as Oklahoma, I guess, heads into the final week of spring ball. Next week, obviously, the Crimson Combine coming up a week from Saturday. Busy weekend around here as well. We'll be talking to Bob Prisbillo as Oklahoma dips into the Okana Invitational this weekend in Norman. LSU baseball coming to town, so stickball coming on Thursday here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We will see you next time right here. Bye-bye now.